morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 5 tips to influence your audience. 5 tips to be more influential when speaking to a group of people or your audience. And when we think about public speaking, running a seminar, delivering a workshop, we generally do it to influence people. We want them to think differently. So this is new knowledge. We want them to do something different. This is their action. This is their behavior after we've spoken. Or we want them to feel something different. So this is the emotion or the feeling that they generate. And if we don't speak for a purpose to get people to change, to get people to do some new knowledge, to get people to feel something differently about an area we're speaking in, then really we're not having any impacts. And this is why influence is so important. I'm going to share with you just 5 tips within the influencing toolbox that we can use as public speakers, as presenters, as trainers, to have greater impact in the way we influence people. So Peter Dew's my name, public speaking trainer and coach, and my passion is to help you be more effective, more confident, more influential every time you get before a group of people. Please ask questions during the webinar, ask questions after the webinar. Many of you will be reviewing this webinar as a recording. Participate, put in your comments, take notes. Is there anything you can do to be more influential as a result of today's webinars? Have you got something coming up in the future that you will include an influencing skill? And as always, this webinar is being recorded, so if you need to review anything or I've skipped over something too quickly, you will be able to review it on the webinar. You'll be able to review the recording. So what is influence? There's a whole range of definitions, and I'm talking about influence from a public speaking, from a presentation skills perspective. And it's the power or the capacity or the ability of causing an effect in your audience. And that can be a direct effect, so they change their behavior, they take new action, or that can be an indirect or intangible way where their thinking starts to change. Here's a question I ask everyone when I do an influencing workshop. What is the difference between influence and manipulation? What is the difference? And one of the things to realize is that the skills we use to influence can also be used to manipulate. So the difference between influence and manipulation is your intention. Your intention. Influence is for the greater good of the group, the greater good of your team, the greater good of your workplace, the greater good of your clients or your customers. Manipulation is for the benefit of you. And so your intention in having this conversation, your intention in putting this message forward, your intention in asking people to change and do things differently is good, for the greater good, for your benefit only. And I'm not sure if you've seen the movie with Chevy Chase, Vacation, the first one. He's ordered and was going to buy a really sporty new car. Drove in the old family wagon and had ordered a brand new sporty car and arrived, and out comes another big family roadster, not what he'd ordered. And he objects and he complains. And in the end, he drives out in that big car that he didn't want and he didn't order, thinking that he's got a good deal because he's been manipulated by the car sales person. So with the skills that we use and with the platform that I share with you today, it's important that my intention is to help the audience, to help you, to assist you, to give you some skills. And with every presentation we do, I think it's important to have that intention. And in marketing, using a marketing phrase, public speaking, change management, let's do things differently. The first sale, the first person you need to convince, the first person you need to influence is yourself. And in your heart, if you don't think this is the best way forward for everyone, then no one else will buy your idea. So why is influence important? I think more than ever, the success of our managers, our leaders, depends upon their ability to influence the crowd, to influence and persuade their team. Fast-paced world, things are changing. Doing things the same way won't get us to where we want to be in the future. So change, unpopular decisions, taking risks, innovation, creativity is what managers, leaders need for today. And they need to be able to bring people along with them, influencing them, because within their heart, they think that is the right way to do things. So influence is also a leadership skill. And while I'm using this influence from a public speaking perspective, it is also a leadership skill. All right, the first influencing skill. What's in it for me? From your audience's perspective, not what's in it for me as the speaker or the trainer. What's in it for your audience? How does your message, how does your idea, how does your proposal, how does your proposition solve their problems? Take away some pain, resolve an issue, or alternatively, how does it help them achieve their goals, reach their key performance indicator, achieve their dreams? This little diagram is what's called the pain to pleasure continuum. And psychologists have studied for a long time and know that the biggest motivator is alleviating pain. Alleviating pain is a greater motivator than creating pleasure. So one of the things I encourage people to do is to walk in your audience's footsteps, the people you're talking to, the team you're managing. What's the problems that they're facing? What are the issues? What are the concerns? What's keeping them awake at night? And if you put forward an idea, a solution, a strategy that resolves that problem, they're going to appreciate it and they're more likely to follow what you're saying. And you have influenced them to change their behaviour because it's going to resolve a problem or take away an issue. Or alternatively, you're going to influence them because it's going to help them achieve their goals. They may be struggling to meet their key performance indicators. They may be struggling to hit targets, which in fact is a problem, a pain, I guess. And you're now putting forward a new solution, a new idea, a new way of doing business. And they can see the benefit, what's in it for me, they can see the benefit for them in changing, and that's going to help them achieve their goals. Just the metaphor I use to put pain and pleasure into context and ask yourself what's keeping your audience awake at night. If you were speaking to a group of homeless people about what's the best way, the best mix to invest their superannuation funds in this time of change, superannuation funds are going down. What's the safest and best way to invest your superannuation? You're having this discussion with a group of homeless people versus let's get some shelter. It's pretty cold at night at the moment. Where can I get a feed? Where can I get some, just a roof over my head? That is going to motivate them. Now, most homeless people do have superannuation balances, by the way. So talking to them how to maximize their superannuation versus give me some warmth, some shelter, some food is a bigger motivator. So alleviating pain is a stronger motivator than creating pleasure, but creating pleasure also does motivate and influence. So ask yourself, what's the headache, what's the pain, and how does my proposition, my proposal solve that? Or how can I help them achieve goals or move to a better place? The classic one for myself was when I started my small business about 15 years ago. I had to do my business activity statement. I had to contribute my GST, and I got a manual system, and it used to take me 2 days. And I hated it, reconciling my checking account, my credit card statements, all the payments I received. And then 2 days later, I would submit my business activity statement. I used to hate it. And then one day someone told me about a little software package called Xero, Xero, cloud-based accounting software that could do my business activity statement in 2 hours. So my current situation is it takes me 2 days every 3 months, every quarter to do my business activity statement. And someone's saying, hey, this system Xero will do it in 2 hours. Do they have to sell that to me? No. The solution took away such a big pain that it was a no-brainer for me. My manual system cost me next to nothing. Xero cost me a lot of money. Does that hurt? No, because the pain it resolved was so much that I was influenced positively to adopt Xero, which I've now been using for about 11 years, and I think it's brilliant. What pain can you take away from your audience, your team, your clients? And when you craft your message around that, you will be influential. Tell a compelling story. So in putting forward data, information, return on investment, risk ratio, risk-reward ratio, a lot of people, that's kind of data-driven and it goes to our head, but it doesn't influence us. So what's the story, a client that you've been able to get through a stressful situation? Let's say you are a financial planner and you're talking to people who are transitioning to retirement and they feel they've got insufficient funds. They're going to end up retiring just with the old age pension, not enjoying the life, not reaching some of those dreams. And you say, look, you've still got 5 to 10 years of working life. I've got a strategy that will help you put away some superannuation that'll enable you to maximize your retirement and enjoy your dreams. This is how it works. Data, information, return on investment. That's not going to influence people. Then you move to a story of some clients that were in a similar situation and how they started to adopt this strategy. They started reducing this, increasing this, and now, 7 years later, they have retired and they're enjoying the lifestyle that they want. What's the story that carries with you the example, a real life living story? I told you about me moving from my manual BAS system to Xero. That was the really short version. I can tell that in a really compelling story that lets people know that this really worked for me if I was trying to influence people to move to Xero from a manual-based system. What compelling story do you have of an example of overcoming adversity, of your proposal as a success? Sharing light at the end of the tunnel, sharing clients that have overcome adversity and now have reached success. Those stories will be influential and have impact. Within the public speaking field, we have a saying, People don't remember much of what you've said. They remember how you make them feel. So people don't remember much of what you have said. Data, statistics, return on investment goes to the head. Rather, they remember how you make them feel. Light at the end of the tunnel, a success story, overcoming adversity. You've got this. Stories are influential. People don't buy data, they buy the story that goes underneath it. If you want to be influential, you need to demonstrate credibility. What gives you the right, what gives you the credibility to ask me to follow you, to change, to do things a different way? Without credibility, you will not be influential. And luckily, credibility is not just one thing. There's a whole layer of things that I call my credibility stack. And consistency breeds trust. Inconsistency leads to distrust. Do you walk the talk? Are you consistent on your message in terms of trying to get people to change? Do you have some research? What's your experience? Your stories can add to your credibility as well. The publications. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, please do. Peter Dew. I create a lot of content. I write articles to serve my clients around public speaking, around overcoming fear. Your qualifications. What's your track record? Are you a fly-by-nighter, or are you invested in this change process, in this topic? I've been doing this for 15 years. I've written a couple of public speaking books. And my story, most people know that I am a person who stutters. And for much of my life, I avoided public speaking. I hid. And through hard work and some help with speech pathology and Toastmasters, I gradually worked on my fear and my severe stutter. And so much so that 15 years ago, I quit my job as a medical scientist working in pathology labs, which I did for 30 years. 15 years ago, I quit and started to teach and help other people overcome their fear of public speaking. My story gives me great credibility. Where does your credibility come from? You're asking me to follow you. You're asking me to think a different way. You're asking me to change, to adopt this way of doing things. You're trying to be influential. All right. What's your track record? What gives you the credibility to ask me to do that? There's non-verbal credibility that I could add to that. Non-verbal credibility is when you walk into the room, you look calm, you look confident. You're not sort of shriveling up and you're not looking nervous. There's also borrowed credibility. If you're junior, if you're new in a profession and you come up with an idea and someone says, well, what would you know? You've only been in the job for 12 months. I've been doing this job for 10 years. That's a silly idea, that won't work. And I see this in the mining sector quite often, where a new graduate gets a fairly senior role, an engineer or a geologist. And then there's people that have worked in the mining sector for 20 or 30 years that are set in their ways. And the new graduate comes up with an idea and it gets dismissed. Borrowed credibility is when the new graduate says, oh, okay, well, the reason I suggest this new way of doing things is I noticed that the Canadians, the mining sector within Canada, has been doing this for 5 years. And they've increased productivity by 5% and they've reduced costs by 2%. That's why I think we should consider this idea. And then people can say, oh, oh, they can't say that's a stupid idea, that won't work, because in fact, it's not a stupid idea and it has worked somewhere else. And you've borrowed the credibility to bring to your idea. So credibility is really important if you want to be influential. You cannot just get before a group of people and say, hey, let's do things differently. And people say, well, why? Or where do you get that idea? Or what gives you the license? What gives you the credibility to think that that would work? And you can't just respond, well, I think it's a good idea. Let's give it a go. You need some credibility behind it. The other thing, if you want to be influential, focus on benefits to your audience, to your team, to your clients, rather than the features. People get stuck on features. The classic example, quite a few years back now, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs launched their new products at the same time. So the first one was Bill Gates, and he launched the MP3 music player. And this is how his launch went. So I give you the latest MP3 player. It comes in 4 different colors, has 250 megabytes of memory, has a 7-hour battery life, and will hold 2,315 songs. I give you the latest MP3 music player. Around about the same time in history, and Steve Jobs stands up. I give you the iPod. Your entire music library in your pocket, anywhere, anytime. Your entire music library in your pocket, anywhere, anytime. Bill Gates focused on the features, 4 different colors, 250 megabytes, 7 hours of battery life, 2,365 and a quarter songs. I can't remember how many songs. Feature, 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 feature. Steve Jobs, he didn't care about the features. What does the iPod mean? It means your entire music collection you can carry around in your pocket for you to access anytime, anywhere. By the way, they're basically the same device. Bill Gates focused on the features. Steve Jobs focused on the benefit or the value of the new idea, the new product, the new way of doing things to you. So please, when you are crafting an influential message, make sure it's rich on the benefits. And this answers the what's in it for me question, which was in number 1, the benefits to the people in the room. The other example is you go to Bunnings and you get a electric drill and a series of drill bits. What have you just brought? Some people say, well, an electric drill and some drill bits. But the real answer is you've just brought the ability to assemble the kids' cubby house. You've just brought the ability to complete your deck or repair your timber deck, which is lifting and causing a tripping hazard. It's the benefit that people buy, not the feature. And number 5, in terms of an idea to be more influential, use the power of the mob. So if you're coming forward with an idea, maybe you need to do some work and involve other people before you put forward the new idea. And that's a little bit of, coaching people, sounding out what their thoughts are on your new idea, handling objections, and it's using the power of the mob. So here's the question for you. My proposition is we need to save electricity. And these are the reasons. And I'm going to give you 4 reasons. And you need to choose one of the reasons Which reason would influence you to decide to save electricity? Turn off the lights, unplug the TV, don't leave the air conditioning on when you're out. All the little things you can do to save electricity. Here's the 4 reasons I'm trying to influence you to save electricity. Use less electricity because it's good for the environment. We know about greenhouse gas emissions, carbon footprint, global warming. If you save electricity, it's going to be good for the environment. Number 2, use less because it's good for our future generation, our kids. There's going to be some resources left over for our kids if we use less electricity now. It's important that we leave something for our kids. It's going to save you money. If you save electricity, you're going to have more money to do those other things, the holidays, the new car or whatever you want. It's going to save you money. You can go out for dinner a few more times. I want you to use electricity because your next door neighbours, by the way, are using electricity that side, and also that side's reduced their electricity bill by 20%. Which one of these 4 influencing scenarios would cause you to change your habits to save electricity? They did this survey in the United States of America. They surveyed 1,000 households, and the number 1 response, and you may have guessed this, was because your neighbours are doing it. This is the power of the mob. If other people are doing it, then I'd better do it as well. So when you're trying to be influential, sometimes you need to get the mob involved. You need to talk to other people. You need to coach them. You need to let them know what you're proposing and why you think it's a good idea. And let them know. Ask them, do they have any objections? Do they have any concerns? And they will. And then you can work out, all right, how am I going to deal with those objections, that pushback? And so when you go to put the idea forward, all of a sudden you've got 1 or 2 or 3 other people in the room and say, yeah, that's a good idea. I think that'll work. I think it's worth at least having a go. And it's not just you trying to influence the crowd. You've got a little bit of a mob around you helping you. So there's just 5 tips from the influencing toolbox. There's many other ways of influencing people. What's in it for me? Put your audience first, solve their problem. Use your storytelling, your examples, your case studies, the overcoming successes, the coming through adversity. You need credibility to be influential. Where does your credibility come from? Focus on the benefits, the value. Don't focus on features, and use the power of the mob if you want to get a new idea across the line. Trusting that one of those influencing skills may be something new for you and something you feel you can put into your argument, your presentation, your sales pitch, or whatever moving forward. Next webinar is on the 26th of October, the 4 stages of group development when running a workshop. The mistake is that people come into a workshop or a presenter, they come on stage and they just present without understanding the group dynamics within the room. This will help you understand that people at first in a workshop are a little bit awkward, not sure what to do. And there are 4 stages of group development that great facilitators, great presenters take the group through, and that helps optimize learning, optimize collaboration, improve participation when running a workshop. I've got a few workshops scheduled for the end of the year, 2 in Port Hedland and 1 next year in Port Hedland. And Perth, my presentation skills and off the cuff. If they are of any value to you or your clients or your staff, please let me know and I can send you more details. They're also on the website. You know how to reach me. I'd welcome your feedback. And remember, influencing is an important skill within public speaking. If you don't have influence, you risk just being hot air. That means you're talking stuff, you're giving lots of details, too much data, lots of features, and nobody changes. Nothing happens, and that becomes hot air. And remember, influence and manipulation, the same tools can be used for both. Influence is about your intention for the greater good of your organisation, your team, your clients, the community. My name is Peter Dew, public speaking trainer and coach.